This is really a momentous day for Barbara and me, and lots of emotions, but I think the dominant one is a sense of gratitude. And the people to thank for really making this happen. And Al mentioned all the people that worked so hard and efficiently to create this building. And a little secret, this is a wonderful thing to do from a donor's perspective because we had the easy task. We just had to write a check. Nobody needed to consult us for what needed to be done or improvements or changes. We just get to have this marvelous sense of pride in other people's work. And it's really very satisfying to see such a marvelous project and know that it was because of the efforts of so many other people. It's also a sense that we're not really investing so much in bricks and mortar, but we're investing in students. Students like Swen or Linda Wang, who we got to know because she stayed with us last summer and then came and visited in France. And literally hundreds of other amazing kids who are doing today wonderful things, but more importantly, we are absolutely convinced that when they leave Swarthmore, they will do marvelous things and be leaders who are making a positive difference in our world. I'm also thankful to Barbara. A lot of people have good entrepreneurial ideas and abilities that are far greater than mine, but they don't follow their dream, oftentimes because their spouse says, no, I don't want to take that risk. Let's just stay where we are. And the idea never gets off the ground. And although Barbara is a little more conservative than me, she didn't hesitate. And she never said, let's not do it. And even in the worst days of credit card roulette, she didn't express her fears. And we plunged ahead. I think there's one time that I remember her expressing some concern, and she actually said it was David's concern, our son's, though I know she shared at the time. And this was a 6-year-old coming to her and saying, Mommy, do you think we're going to be able to still take trips? And trips were our vacations. And I said, absolutely, and we did. And some of them were maybe not as luxurious as they would have been a driving trip from Omaha through the West with Barbara's parents. But still, I think we did a good job of filling up the family memory bank with trips. And we didn't stop doing what really matters to us. And then we were fortunate in the lottery business to have a success. And then I realized that another thanks I needed to give was to my grandfather, who in an odd way I think is born just 4 years after Swarthmore was founded. And it's kind of startling still to me, even though I've lived with this knowledge for a long time, that I have really followed in my grandfather's footsteps. He was an entrepreneur, and not only an entrepreneur, he was a direct marketing entrepreneur. And I think his being a role model enabled me to maybe have the courage to take the chance. And I also appreciate that my grandfather was wise enough to let his son, my father, take his chances. And my father was the only of 6 sons who didn't go into business, but for over 60 years was a very happy practicing physician. And I think my grandfather was wise enough to let my father follow his path. And in turn, my father, who I think on some level was disappointed that I and my siblings didn't go into medicine, still never stopped and said, geez, are you sure you want to go into business? But encouraged me to find my own path. And now I think Barbara and I have the opportunity with David and Rebecca to try and do the same, to have the wisdom to let them find their own paths. You know, when I came to Swarthmore exactly 40 years ago, I didn't have any sense of that I was going to be influenced by my grandfather or the values of my family, father, mother, siblings. I thought it was just me, and that I would come to Swarthmore and then a place like Harvard Business School and learn some skills and maybe go out and do what I wanted to do. But now I realize that it's not just me, that I really, like all of us, are formed by the institutions and the families that we happen to connect with. And I think I learned learned some things at Harvard Business School, but I'm absolutely convinced that the kind of businessman I've striven to be is influenced much more by Swarthmore than Harvard. And I don't want to stand on a soapbox here, but I think business does offer a terrific opportunity to expand the pie. And if I do my job as president of Home Decorators Collection right, we make hundreds of thousands of customers happy. We make the shareholders of Home Decorators, now the shareholders of the Home Depot, previously family and friends, we make them happy. We make our vendors happy and the employees of those vendors as well as our own employees. I think it really can be a positive experience, and I've worked very hard to make it a win-win-win. And I think that is very much influenced by the experience here. But the experience here wasn't just an influence in an amorphous way. It really traces to specific individuals. And because I'm old enough to have come here 40 years ago, I was fortunate enough to have direct contact with a man named Tom McCabe, whose name graces the library, and was really instrumental in shaping Swarthmore. And I had 3 interactions with Tom McCabe. The first was a totally anonymous one, but very influential, because when my father and I came my senior year at Exeter to look at Swarthmore, Swarthmore was back in session, and I will always remember walking into the newly constructed McCabe Library, and as I walked in, out walked a very attractive woman who smiled at me. And coming from the snows in New Hampshire where there were no women, this seemed very appealing. 2 years later, Tom McCabe gave me a watch in commemoration of my setting the outdoor mile record, a watch that I wore for many years. And that same year, I happened to earn an award called the Scott Award that he funded that included a non-merit-based scholarship. And I felt a little guilty about the scholarship. My father was pretty happy, but it did make me resolve to pay it back. What's the phrase now? To play it forward. And I have been influenced by that. 20 years later, I was influenced by another man who you can't spend 20 minutes on this campus and not realize the impact that Eugene Lang has had on Swarthmore and continues to have. And my first interaction with him was not on campus, but was in an alumni gathering in his apartment in New York, where he was talking about giving. And the joy that was clear that he got from giving, and more substantively, the thousands of lives, both at Swarthmore and other places, that he has touched, was absolutely inspirational, and made me resolve that if I was fortunate enough to have some business success, that it would be to try in a very small way to emulate his amazing accomplishments. And so I feel very lucky that I've gotten all this to allow this to happen. And I also want to thank all of you for coming here, for being able to share this with family, the offspring of David Kemp, entrepreneur, pioneer, patriarch, and friends and colleagues. Really makes this an absolutely fabulous experience for me, and I know for Barbara. And so thank you all, and let me close by thanking Al, who has been for 17 years an inspirational leader and has inspired me and literally thousands of others to support Swarthmore and move it closer to the vision that he has for it being the best liberal arts college in America. Thanks a lot.
About 4 months before Tom McCabe died, he asked me to come and visit him at his office at Scott. And of course, I think of anyone who had any connection with Swarthmore, if Tom invited you anything, it was a privilege to go, and of course I went. And he said to me, Gene, he said, I invited you to come talk with me because I wanted to tell you something. I guess he was in a way like I am now. He said, I'm very old and I don't have much more time. And I want you to know that this meeting, I'm going to pass the baton to you to carry on what I tried to do for Swarthmore. Well, in a way, I've thought about that many times, and it has brought me repeated inspiration, not just coming from Tom, but just the fact that he is a wonderful human being, picked me to eventually take his place. But like nature would have it, he passed on. And there was no general notice about it, and Tom didn't publish the fact. But I took that baton very, very seriously. I'm so glad that God favored me that I was able to do that. I feel equally grateful, I say this now, that the Swarthmore Choir, the president, who made it possible for me, created the atmosphere and the encouragement and the support that made it possible for me to respect Tom's baton. But now, at this stage of the game, being here and listening to this priceless comment, which I think really goes far beyond what anything that I feel I have deserved, because the reward has been so great to me as I know Gil feels this place is to him. But still in all, I see Tom with us, and I'm very happy to be here myself, and I'm very, very grateful. I'm very, very grateful to you, Gil. And go you, sophomore. I'm very grateful to both of you for just making this occasion work out in such a way that I'm standing here before you now, happier than I could possibly ever feel.